All right, guys, I told Ash I was going to upload a video, and here it is. It's an interesting one as well. Really interesting. Going to be talking about how you can actually build a very, very effective team to beat Khloros and Rengo, and in general, a lot of content using an SR Animus that frankly gets overlooked most of the time. But before we do that, there is a link to a Discord in the description below. You should go and join it. It's an Etheria Restart Discord where myself and Ash and other players are basically talking and sharing tips and tricks. But also, Ash is doing a $100 giveaway in that Discord every single week. So make sure you go and join it. Also, a link to mine and Ash's joint Etheria Restart channel where we are uploading some content together. I'm helping him out in terms of just sort of beginner guides and getting him up to speed. But this is a really interesting video. We're going to jump straight into it now. No more random preamble. I wanted to be able to beat Khloros and Rengo a little bit more effectively on auto mode because, to be honest with you, I wasn't doing it. There's some really interesting new shells that need to be looked at, specifically Tiger Yin. Tiger Yin is a really, really good DPS shell that a lot of people are replacing White Fang with. And to be completely frank with you, I was not, because I'm not beating Khloros very consistently. I'm not actually beating Rengo very effectively. So I wanted to try and solve that problem. So I found a Reddit post that went up, I think it was like today or yesterday, 6 hours ago from me recording this video, by the name of Fickle Mistake. And essentially he said, there's a really, 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 really good DPS unit that no one's using, and you can 3-star this guy without Liliam or Yeli. And to be honest with you, it's even better than Liliam. Like, this is working out better than Liliam. And I thought, do you know what? I got to try this because it's an SR character. The SR character we're talking about is... Now, it's important to set a baseline because I have got Liliam, she's pretty well built, and she's like the most obvious replacement for Tsutumo in this situation, right? So I can beat Khloros Inferno with Liliam. It's not super consistent, but I can do it. So I'm going to set a baseline of 8 auto farms with Liliam to see where I land, and if Tsutumo can better it or equal it, I'd consider that a success. The reason being is Tsutumo is much more accessible. For Liliam to be really good, you have to 5-5-5 her, so that's 15 perfect lattice investments. Not all of you are going to have that. Not all of you might even have Liliam to begin with. So Tsutumo is a budget replacement for Liliam that can potentially do as well. So let's just wait for this auto farm to finish, and we will see where we land with the Liliam auto farm. All right, so we are at 6 wins and 2 losses for my Liliam team. Considering I'm not fully optimized, the average completion time is 1 minute 14. So let's see, let's jump into Tsutumo and see where we land. Tsutumo, which is really interesting because he frankly got overlooked most of the time. Now, the reason being, he's not particularly good if you're building him classically. So if you're building him like you would build most DPS carries, which is essentially you've got to get a 100% critical strike chance, and then everything else goes into either attack or critical strike damage after that, he's a little underwhelming. His ultimate essentially is just some damage, and if you crit the second one, you can't heal or be applied with a buff. So essentially you can apply a wound and a block, which is pretty good for a lot of scenarios. You have a buff steal, so he deals 200% damage to a single enemy, with each having an 80% chance to steal a random buff from the target. So essentially a better buff steal chance than Yeli, which is kind of interesting. And then his single target, if he deals 240% damage to a single enemy. However, if the target has a debuff on it, it's a guaranteed critical hit. And you know that we run a lot of really strong debuffers right now, specifically running stuff like Plume. So if you have a Plume, it's really good. But if you don't have a Plume, you know, not the worst in the world. You can also run Kloss on Khloros, and it's not too bad. So this is really where he shines. The fact that you don't need to build him with 100% critical strike to get a guaranteed crit on his first attack. And it's his first attack, so it's not going to be dealing game-changing damage, but it deals enough to chip away at the boss pretty consistently. Having a look at the modules, right now the shell I've got is White Fang. It's probably just the best shell in this scenario. Recently got buffed. You're looking for the increased attack, which I basically got a perfect roll. You're looking for crit damage rather than critical strike. And then obviously Blade of Hollow would be the best because he is a Hollow Animus. In terms of prowess, it's an SR, so max everything. There isn't any real need to hold back on SRs because the purple lattices are so abundant. And then in terms of modules, you want a Fury Edge. Obviously, Fury Edge is really good. Ideally, all of these are crit damage. I just don't have a crit damage for Fury Edge, so I couldn't put one on. You really want to... Don't put... Obviously, critical strike rate is okay, but you're not that bothered about critical strike rate. You're really bothered about critical strike damage. Speed is helpful as well, but critical strike damage is the most important thing that you want to start getting on most of the stuff that you're putting onto him. So I'm running Onslaught, Fury, and Fury Edge. So that's okay. Like, you know, as you can see, it's 40%, 5% attack. I've got the full Fury bonus, so I get the increased critical strike damage. And then I've obviously got Fury Edge, which gives critical strike rate and critical strike damage. However, there is a world where you might want to run Kenai instead. Kenai can obviously be pretty good in terms of increasing the damage from the first critical strike hit when you use it. So, you know, I think like Kenai is pretty solid, but obviously attack, if you can get the Onslaught, I've got 3,300 extra attack here, which is fantastic. Most of that coming from Onslaught. So, you know, I think he's set up pretty well for the most part. All right, so in terms of how you actually play him, and I'm going to play it on a manual first, and then we're going to do an auto to see how it goes. You want to run him with Lily, Plume, Nymphonial, and obviously Tsutumo. Now, Plume, you know, is best in class, but obviously I think Khloros could work, but Plume obviously best in class in this scenario. Nymphonio is really strong because she's obviously going to boost his attack, and if he has a high attack already, it's going to be really good. And then Lily is obviously needed for Khloros because you need to speed through as much as you can. The way that you make sure that Khloros doesn't one-shot you is by just taking as many actions as you physically can. So you obviously want to have a relatively quick team, and you kind of want Lily to make this work. So, I'm going to play it through manually. So if you've never beaten him before, we're going to play it through manually. So we're going to buff immediately here. I actually have them speed tuned so that I can get a full round of everybody else off before Tsutumo takes his attack. We're then going to buff up Tsutumo like this. Boom. So now if we look at the buffs that I've got immunity, I've got Rhyme Bloom, I've got a massive increase in attack, and I've also got increase in speed, which is pretty nice. We are actually going to use our ultimate first because we're going to apply the block and the healing, which is really nice. Boom, not going to do too much damage. We are going to reset because resetting is good in this scenario. It still deals the most damage. We are obviously mostly interested in his first ability, but that's really only once you've kind of run through his ultimates. So we're going to use the ultimates again here, hopefully get the second application. We did manage to apply a stack of block, which is pretty nice. And now you're going to start seeing big chunks coming out from the S1. No real need for me to use my health equalizer, so I'm just going to keep using my attack. I'm going to keep trying to apply as many of those as I can. And again, just use the first attack. You actually don't need to use the buff steal. We're now going to boost him up. So he's actually going to get a critical strike increase. And we're just going to keep hitting like this. Keep using our first ability. Hopefully I get an Artisan proc in a moment. We are going to use another Plume ultimate. Ideally, you kind of want to run Plume with... I think you want to run Plume and Nymphonial with Codex of Magic. I think this is going to be easier if you have a Codex of Magic on Nymphonial. But we are going to go for another. And I think we applied the block there, actually. Pretty decent. I think probably worth going for health equalizer in this situation, just in case. And then use this. And we'll finish it off like that. That was really easy. I think it would be even easier if I had Codex and Magic on Nymphonial. I just don't. The reason being is that I don't have a very good Codex of Magic because I'm not beating Rengo Ketsu very effectively. So let's just do a quick test. Let's do a continuous battle with this. And let's check in to see how we do. Bearing in mind, I had about a 10% win rate on this with Liliam, if that. I used to get one shot really quickly. Okay, so I'm just jumping into this because I did make a change. I was finding that when I was autoing before, my Plume wasn't quick enough and he was actually getting his first one shot off. The big problem with this guy is that if you're not quick enough, if the team's not quick enough, you're going to get one shot. So yeah, it's important that that's why Codex is pretty good because you're going to get the double hits. But I've gone for the Jackal Guard just to get the slightly extended speed buff on my Plume, which should bring her round quick enough by the time that we get to the point where he's going to attempt his one shot, which you'll just see in a minute. Plume is just ahead of, very importantly, that Scythe. Because what that Scythe does is it knocks everyone back. So Plume had to act before that Scythe, otherwise I get one shot. So this is the setup that's now working for me. One of the big problems that you're going to have here is that I'm getting a lot of damage off without the defense break. The defense break is very important to ensure that you get enough damage on him to kill him before the second one shot, which is obviously a big deal. He's now reset that second one shot here, but we should be able to get him here. We'll get a nice ultimate off that gets him pretty low. We get a nice White Fang hit. He's not going to kill me on this turn. It'll be the next turn. So the defense break. Oh, there we go. Defense break was fine. So the block is pretty important, in my opinion, because it blocks the speed buff. That is the thing that can sometimes be a bit iffy. If you don't get the block from your Tsutumo, he will get the speed buff. Obviously, you can steal that. There is a nice, obviously using his second ability, you can steal it. So if he ever uses it, you can use the second ability from Tsutumo and steal it as well. But if he gets the block off, it makes this much easier. So there you go, get the block. Obviously, I've got a little bit of critical strike chance on Tsutumo. The higher you can get it with like your substats, the better it's going to be for you for auto. But as you can see, I've got a pretty solid setup here. I think what we'll do, we'll see this one through just to see if they beat it when we're looking through it. But what I'll do is I'll come back after this. Didn't get the second block there, which is kind of annoying. I'll come back after this and we can review how we did. Now you can see here, he does not have the one-shot ability. That's why I changed to Jackal Guard on my plume, just to give me that slight edge when dealing with the first one-shot, because I was finding that my plume was running a White Fang, like I said. We're going to get rid of the speed buff here as well, which is pretty nice. My plume was running a White Fang, which was a real pain in the bum because I wasn't getting an extended speed buff from the Jackal Guard long enough, which basically meant that my plume was not acting quick enough. Her speed buff wasn't lasting long enough. And then ultimately we were in a situation where I was getting one shot on the first go. Now we should be fine here. He's not going to one-shot us here, I don't think. No, this is not the one-shot. It's the next move that's the problem for the one-shot, but we're fine. We should get the kill very easily, although I did get... Oh, this actually might be a problem. We got massively stunned. So I actually think depending if... Oh, I think I'm actually going to get one shot here. Oh, we got stunned. Everybody got stunned. That was actually pretty grim. Little bit unlucky, if I'm honest with you. It might be that I just need to sort of slightly tweak my damage. This is where actually having the... This is where having the codex, especially on both Nymphonial and on my plume, is going to make this more consistent. Having the codex on Nymphonial means you'll get a couple of extra turns of like the empowered attack damage from your Tsutumo, which in my opinion is probably what sends this over the edge. The problem is that I don't have a good enough... I don't have a good enough Codex of Magic. I just don't have one that would really suit my Nymphonial at the moment. I honestly haven't cleared Rengo enough, so I'm kind of dealing with a slightly suboptimal version here. This probably would get better if I had, if it's sort of slightly optimized, like let's say some speed and some damage stats on Tsutumo, but for the most part, this should be fine on auto. I'm getting a little unlucky when it comes to crit damages, but also just on some of the stuns that happen. The stun is the biggest problem. We're going to have the skills coming back up here. This should be enough. I'm going to get a lot of damage down. I think I've got my ultimate back up from Tsutumo. I have. Do get the block. No, I don't get the block. See, it just depends on some of the damage that you're dealing, but it's enough. Like, we're doing fine here. Let's come back again at the end and see how we do in terms of overall performance. This is the problem with Rengo. He can just get an affinity, like, break on you and then just one-shot you, which is really dumb. Right. Fine. Hit with hopefully much higher damage. That's higher than previously, so that's good. Don't one-shot me. Nearly one-shot my Liliam, but if he was going to one-shot anyone, one-shotting the Liliam is the best person to almost one-shot. The reason being is that she can heal back. Okay, so we're going to get the ultimate again. Hopefully that's a lot of damage. It is a decent amount of damage. Okay. Nice. Hitting him. We're going to get this. So he's got another 2 defense breaks at the moment, which is pretty good. Hit him again. That's good. Don't one-shot me. I just need to get around one more turn. Just don't kill me. I just need one more turn. If anything, I just need Lily to take a hit. Lily, just hit. Good. Just one hit, Lily, and you're fine. Good. All right. Given that my Tsutumo is not, the team is not optimized, let's see how it goes. 6 wins and 2 losses. Do you know what? For a non-optimized team, that's pretty good. Now, I will say the average completion time was a little bit slower than Liliam. So, Liliam probably still better if you've got her built really well. But it is so much easier to build Tsutumo, and it's not that far off Liliam in terms of completion rate and percentage. So he's a pretty solid option. I would say, especially if you've got Plume. Like, Plume has made him better because she has such consistent debuff application. So obviously he's going to get guaranteed crits. I wonder if there's a world where actually having a slightly stronger crit rate on him is going to be more effective. But either way, definitely an interesting pickup here. And I think overall could be also pretty good in PvP. Like, I think having a good Tsutumo in PvP could be really interesting too. But that's it. Basically the same as Liliam in terms of percentage completion. Slightly slower on the clear speed. Liliam just dealing that much more damage. But both of them pretty consistently clearing Khloros, which is pretty good for getting yourself hands on Tiger Yin and some of the newer shells. There you go. Hopefully very helpful for you guys.